Climate change is a global crisis that demands immediate action. This global goal aims to take urgent action to combat climate change and its impacts. It is a pressing issue affecting our planet, from rising sea level to extreme weather events. The consequences are far-reaching. The burning of fossil fuels, deforestation, and industrial activities are major contributors to greenhouse gas emissions, which trap heat in the atmosphere and lead to global warming. To address this challenge, we must transition to clean and renewable energy sources, reduce our carbon footprint, and promote sustainable practices like reducing greenhouse gas emissions, adapting to climate change, and international cooperation. By working together, we can mitigate the effects of climate change and ensure a sustainable future for generations to come.
The target under Sustainable Development Goal 13 focus on taking urgent action to combat climate change and its impacts. Target 13.1 is to strengthen resilience and adaptive capacity in all countries to address climate-related hazards and natural disasters. This involves implementing strategies to reduce risks and enhance disaster preparedness. Target 13.2 calls for integrating climate change measures into national policies, strategies, and planning. It emphasizes the importance of aligning governmental actions with climate priorities to ensure that sustainable practices become a core aspect of development. Target 13.3 focuses on building knowledge and institutional capacity to address climate change. This includes raising awareness and improving education about climate mitigation, adoption, and early warning systems to reduce impact of climate change. Target 13.A addresses the need of developed countries to fulfill their commitment under the UN Framework Convention on Climate Change, aiming to mobilize $100 billion annually to support developing countries in their climate efforts. This financial aid is crucial for ensuring that developing nations can engage in meaningful mitigation and adoption actions.
Climate change significantly impacts ecosystems, leading to habitat alterations that disrupt biodiversity and increase species vulnerability. Rising global temperatures, changing precipitation patterns, and extreme weather events alters habitats, affecting species distribution and survival. For example, warmer temperatures causes polar ice to melt, which reduces habitat for species like polar bears and seals. Shifts in temperature and rainfall also disrupt migration, breeding, and feeding cycles in various species, putting them at risk of extinction if they cannot adapt or relocate. Due to warming ocean temperatures, according to the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, coral reefs could decline by 70 to 90% with an additional 1.5 Celsius of warming in temperature. Similarly, changing precipitation patterns and increasing droughts threaten terrestrial species, particularly in the region like the Amazon, where forest fires and droughts have been intensified, destroying habitat critical to thousands of species. With over 1 million species currently at risk of extinction due to habitat loss, climate change, and human activities, according to United Nations, there's a threat of biodiversity. This disruption to biodiversity and ecosystem reduces resilience and weakens the natural system that support essential services, from clean water to climate regulation, which directly impact human society.
As Earth's climate continues to change, extreme weather events are becoming more frequent and intense. These include record-high heat waves, intense rainfall, severe floods, prolonged droughts, extreme wildfires, and catastrophic flooding during hurricanes. Human activities, especially the burning of fossil fuels since the Industrial Revolution, have led to a sharp increase in greenhouse gases in the atmosphere. Gases like carbon dioxide and methane create a blanket effect, trapping heat and causing the planet to warm. Rise in temperature impacts the water cycle, alters weather patterns, and accelerates the melting of ice, all of which contribute to more severe extreme weather events. The Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, or IPCC, reported in its 2021 sixth assessment that the human-driven increase in greenhouse gases is responsible for the growing frequency and intensity of extreme weather. NASA's satellite missions, including the upcoming Earth System Observatory, play a crucial role in gathering data to monitor and address these extreme weather events.
With far-reaching effects on ecosystems and human cultures, climate change is producing a global crisis. Sea levels are rising, extreme weather events are becoming more frequent and severe, and ecosystems are being disrupted as a result of rising global temperatures. Sea levels, for example, have increased dramatically over the past few decades because sea level rise can cause coastal erosion, flooding, and saltwater intrusion into fresh water supplies. Coastal locations are especially vulnerable. Hurricanes, droughts, and heat waves are examples of extreme weather phenomena that occurring more frequently with greater intensity. For example, there have been a lot of more weather disasters in the United States in recent years that cost billions of dollars. The widespread harm to agriculture, infrastructure, and human health may result from this occurrence. Climate change is also disrupting ecosystem worldwide. Warmer temperatures, altered precipitation patterns, and ocean acidification are causing shifts in species disruption, loss of biodiversity, and disruptions to delicate ecological balances. For instance, coral reefs, vital marine ecosystems, are bleaching and dying due to rising ocean temperatures. These changes can have cascading effects, impacting marine life and coastal communities that rely on them. Such ecological disruptions can lead to food insecurity, reduced livelihoods, and increased displacement, highlighting the far-reaching consequence of climate change.
SDG 11 Sustainable Cities and Communities. The goal of SDG 11 is to create inclusive, secure, resilient, and sustainable cities. The primary issues with SDG 11 is urbanization, which has contributed to the negative issues we are currently dealing with, such as growing air population, inadequate infrastructure and basic services, and an increase in the number of people living in slums. According to World Health Organization data, nearly all people on the planet breathe in air that exceeds World Health Organization guidelines and contains high pollution levels in low and middle income nations experiencing the most exposures. Additionally, there are already 1.1 billion people living in urban slums or conditions similar to them, and another 2 billion are predicted to do so over the next 30 years. Furthermore, just 50% of urban dwellers worldwide have easy access to public transit in 2022.
To address these challenges, SDG 11 sets out several specific targets that aim to tackle the issues of urbanization and make cities better places for everyone. Target 11.1 aims to provide safe, affordable housing by 2030, upgrading slums to improve living conditions and essential services. 11.2 focuses on accessible, sustainable transport, especially for vulnerable groups like women, children, and people with disabilities. 11.3 promotes inclusive urbanization, encouraging resident participation in city planning. 11.4 seeks to protect cultural and natural heritage for future generations. Target 11.5 aims to reduce disaster impacts, particularly on vulnerable groups. 11.6 focuses on reducing cities' environmental impacts by improving air quality and waste 11.7 calls for safe, accessible green spaces, essential for well-being, especially for children and the elderly. Beyond individual cities, 11.8 promotes stronger links between urban and rural areas. 11.b encourages cities to adopt resource efficient, climate resilient policies aligning with global disaster frameworks. Finally, Target 11.C supports least developed countries with technical and financial assistance to build sustainable resilient structures.
There are a couple of ways on taking action to achieve SDG 11, such as the following. The first is to choose a charity that aligns with SDG 11. Any amount of donation, no matter how little, can have a positive impact. The second is to eat, drink, and shop locally. Supporting local companies helps keeps the people employed and circulates money back to the community. The third is by choosing a sustainable mode of transportation such as walking, cycling, or commuting. The fourth is to encourage the construction of safe housing projects in slums. Volunteers can help in the making of new homes, repairing old ones, and setting up green or public areas. Practice care towards public spaces. Inspire others to help in the cause, such as watering the greens, trimming and planting, renovating areas, and organizing cleanups. Lastly, take advantage of your right to elect leaders in your community and stay in touch and to be informed with the local news.
Fossil fuels is an issue that is deeply inclined to SDG 11. So what exactly are fossil fuels? Fossil fuels are natural resources formed from the remains of ancient plants and animals over millions of years. They've been the primary source of energy for industrial development, transportation, and electricity generation worldwide. Some examples of fossil fuels are coal, a solid fossil fuel primarily composed of carbon formed from plant remains. Natural gas, a fossil fuel mainly composed of methane, often found in association with oil deposits. Oil, a liquid fossil fuel made up mostly of hydrocarbons extracted from underground reservoirs. So how much fossil fuels do we actually use? In 2024, fossil fuels account for 81.5% of the world's energy needs, powering vehicles, generating electricity, and serving as raw materials for various products, including plastics and chemicals. However, the combustion of fossil fuels releases significant greenhouse gases, contributing to climate change and environmental degradation. A society increasingly recognizes the need for sustainable energy solutions. Understanding the implications of fossil fuel use is essential for transitioning to cleaner alternatives.
And these are the negative implications of fossil fuels on the environment. First, greenhouse gas emissions and climate change. Large volumes of carbon dioxide and other greenhouse gases are released into the atmosphere when fossil fuels are burned, trapping heat and contributing to global warming. Rising temperatures, melting ice caps, rising sea levels, and an increase in the number of extreme weather events like storms, droughts, and wildfires are all due to climate change. Second, air pollution and health risks. Smog and acid rain are caused by the combustion of fossil fuels, which releases toxic pollutants such as sulfur dioxide, nitrogen oxides, and particulate matter. Even in highly polluted places, these pollutants can have negative impacts on health, resulting in cardiovascular disorders, respiratory problems, and early death. And last, ecosystem degradation and habitat destruction. Environmental damage can result from the mining, drilling, and hydraulic fracturing processes used to produce fossil fuels. Ecosystems are often harmed, water sources are contaminated, wildlife habitats are disturbed, and biodiversity is lost. Coal mining operations and unintentional oil spills can destroy both terrestrial and marine life.
The adverse effects of fossil fuels are truly undeniable. With this, being aware of its effects holds a significant role in reducing its impacts on our cities and communities. Environmental awareness is an essential tool that allows individuals to develop the right mindsets to help them make sustainable decisions and actions that are crucial in decreasing the reliance on and effects of fossil fuels. Some of the actions include the following. First is use of renewable energy. Renewable energy is defined as the energy that came from a source that will not run out. Examples of this include solar, water, biomass, and wind energies. Next is shifting to alternative transportation. Sustainable forms of transportation such as walking, biking, and use of public transportation help improve the environmental quality of the planet. Lastly is urban greening. Cities and communities are continuously growing. Thus, it is important to consider the spaces we are taking up from our environment. Incorporating greeneries in urban developments is crucial in diminishing the effects of fossil fuels on our planet. Through being environmentally aware, we will be able to reduce the consequences of fossil fuels and effectively create a greener space for both the current and future generations. And that concludes our presentation. Once again, we are Group 3 and here are the references for our project. Thank you and God bless.